Want some candy?
Excuse me, bitch?
In today's adventure, we're going to be looking at the sequel to Predator, Predator 2. The setting is Los Angeles, 1997. We're thrown right into the story as these caricatures of gangsters are having a shootout with the cops. I guess this was back in the age where they used real cars and it was so expensive to blow them up that they had to go in slow motion and have several shots of the cars being utterly destroyed. Like, that was the highlight. And one thing I noticed, wait a second, that guy right there, take a pause, is that not the guy from the Lost World Jurassic Park? Okay, maybe not, but they're eerily similar to me. Anyway, this guy who I'll call Teeth, and the corporal from Full Metal Jacket's junior self, because I actually thought that was him.
No, not Private Pile. Sir, no, sir. And why not Private Pile? Sir.
Is the vulture who brings the good people the truth of what's really going on. I don't know why the Full Metal Jacket general, corporal, whatever he is what this guy's giving me, but I actually thought that was him, and I'm like, his proportions are all wrong. Or maybe it is. I don't know. He's made to look like a very annoying pest, but to be honest, as a journalist, even though he is annoying, he's giving the people the truth, the actual news, the unadulterated news, as he sees it, as it's happening, no agenda involved. Anyway, crimes have been rising between the Jamaicans and the Colombian gangs. It's where we meet Danny Glover and the rest of his crew, who we don't even really care about if anything happens to them, like the Latina. Danny Glover does his action scenes while Predator is watching all of this. He ends up using the car to save the policemen that were bleeding out. Danny, who's Danny Glover's best friend, Danny plays Lieutenant Harrigan in this movie, says that some other dudes who are not from their unit, probably they're feds, probably they're not, want to secure the area and make a perimeter. You know, half the time I'm watching this movie, I feel like I'm not planted to the ground, if that makes sense. Like, I know, I get it. Some of you were saying that this is a thing with 80s movies. Maybe it's the kind of 80s movies that I watched, and it was the only genre that I really watched 80 movies in, which were horror movies and sci-fi movies, because there's really things I was interested in going back and watching. But goodness gracious, when you actually watch like action thrillers, that's a whole new ball game. I feel like a complete culture shock watching these, because they're so freaking cheesy to the point where it makes me feel so uncomfortable. You see what I mean? Like, really, bro? Anyway, these guys are about to go ham and hyped, and then something happens. When Harrigan and his people come in, the rest of his cop friends, one of the cartel guys are just going nuts. They don't even care about the cops. It's like he is shooting at something else, or something has him terrified. Harrigan chases him up on the roof, and he looks like he's looking for something else. He looks absolutely terrified. Well, he's supposed to look terrified, because to me, it looks like he's having convulsions, or he's having a seizure, or he's trying to make us believe that he is. Because the acting is just, oh my god. Like, it's very clear that they chose this guy based on looks, because his acting is not where it's at. He doesn't look scared. He looks as oh boy. He looks as though someone told him, okay, be scared. Look as though you're freaking out. You're looking everywhere in the room. And at any moment, something's about to get you. Was this movie even from the 80s? It's from 1997. How is it worse than the first movie? Jesus. I mean, to be honest, the first movie was a classic compared to this. But man, oh man, didn't give me a great first impression. And I guess if you're saying that this is something that all 80s or 90s movies have in common, then I guess it's an acquired taste for some people, or it was just something of the time. Because I honestly don't see the appeal. What are these contraptions? What is that? Anyway, the guy sees something that obviously Harrigan doesn't see, and he shoots blindly and gets shot off the building. He had seen the alien, or at least the outline of its shimmer. What I find more fascinating is that as this guy was falling, he's able to twist himself in midair like a cat. Like, that's some real stuntsmanship right there. Do you see that? He's able to twist himself in midair like a kitty. That is amazing. How do you do that as a human being? It's freaking awesome. And, wait a minute. Okay, I'm confused. Why is his hair not moving? Okay, what in the physics? What is happening right now? He has really long hair, and I know that he's not using that good of a gel cast, because if he was, first of all, his hair would look really oily, and secondly, it wouldn't have been moving from before. But here, as he is falling really fast, his hair is literally just staying in the same spot. Can someone explain to me what's happening? I mean, I know there's stunt people, and I know CGI wasn't that great of a thing back then, but is he not falling? Is he just... Okay, I will figure this out, because I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm getting hung up on this. What is happening? Is he just not falling, and they just put a screen behind him to make it look like he is falling, and that's why he's able to twist so well? Oh my god, what? Because his hair isn't moving, bro. His hair isn't moving!
Get on with it!
Anyway, after the guy falls onto a table, how? How did the table not break? What kind of table is that? Man, the legs on that thing. Harrigan swears that he sees something. You know when you can sense a presence in the room with you? But he's like, nah, everything's fine. When they go to check out what happened, the place is a bloodbath. And in that moment, Danny, Harrigan's best friend, sees something shimmer above the ceiling. He would have had to climb really high, really fast, within seconds of them getting there. Later on, knowing something is up after the predator watches everything from afar, Harrigan is basically told to stay out of it and to let these other people take care of everything. This guy named Keys is like, yeah, I know, I'm not trying to step on your toes, man, but shit, it is what it is. Discount Ron Perlman here is clearly not exactly who he says he is, and somebody's hiding something.
Whoever did this waited until the last minute and then took out 4 men armed with machine guns by hand, and then got by us.
So Danny completely understands that this is no ordinary person they're talking about. King Willie is supposed to be the lead drug lord Jamaican guy. By the way, of course, Jamaicans are also a caricature of Jamaicans because they sound like people pretending to be Jamaicans and not actual Jamaicans. Apparently this was a common thing with a lot of old movies, and oh my god, the cringe is real.
Everything gonna be airy.
Jerry Lambert joins the team. He's always cracking these strange jokes. But to be fair, he becomes a very likable character. Although I do notice that in this movie, the characters are not nowhere as relatable or likable as the characters from the first movie. Danny Glover says that the team comes first, and even though Jerry is good at what he does, it's all about his family here. 'Cause that's what matters. Later, there's some jungle noises, 2 people having a fun time, and the man and his girl are ambushed. The Colombian gang leader is hung up, and they perform like a voodoo ritual. Like, there's so many freaking weird-ass stereotypes in this movie when it comes to the Colombians and the Jamaicans. It's kind of nauseating. But after hunting this man, they become prey themselves by the predator. Harrigan and his team go in, and just like with the first movie, they see a horrible scene. A whole bunch of men that are strung up and skinned. The only person who is not skinned is the Colombian gang boss that they already killed. As Danny is assessing the area, he sees a strange thing in the ventilation shaft. A weapon that the predator had thrown through these people. That guy Keys comes in and says, you guys are in my area and you need to get the hell out. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Leave. The girlfriend, however, of the Colombian drug lord is completely fine. And I'm taking this to mean that from the first movie, the predators don't kill people who are unarmed.
Take a good look at that room, okay? Hey, wait for me.
Again, the predator mimics, just like in the first one, but at least the way that he utilizes it makes a lot more sense in this movie. The new guy, Jerry, is tasked with surveilling and basically watching what Keys is doing. Danny goes in and he climbs up to get the weapon. Unfortunately, shortly after he gets it, someone says his name, Danny Boy, which scares the bejesus out of him, and as he grabs on to thin air, he sees that the alien materialize in front of him and is brutally killed. His necklace is the only thing left behind. Having disobeyed so many times, at the Force, they look up on the background of Michael Harrigan, and it doesn't look good. However, he is a police officer and has put away a lot of people, so his chief kind of stands up for him. His chief tells him, listen, you're too close to this. I know you love Danny and he was your best friend, but you gotta let them handle it. And understandably, he's like, no, Danny was my friend and this son of a bitch killed him. I'm going to get him. Feeling angry at Keys and knowing that he's hiding something, Michael Harrigan basically says, look, I'm gonna get whatever is going on. I'm gonna get you. You're not gonna get away with this. Danny's friends, the girl and the comedic guy, who obviously they're nice, but you don't really care about them. Except for Jerry. I'm kind of starting to like Jerry just because he's silly. They try to tell him to sit this one out, but he's like, no, I'm not going to. And they agree to do it with him. This woman is a special doctor that a lot of the police force goes to, but she was locked out of this organization run by Keys, who claims he's investigating the gangs. They give her the weapon that Danny found. He had been holding it when they found his body. It weighs almost nothing but cuts like steel. When she checks on it, she says there's nothing like this, no substance like this at all on the periodic table. So by all sense of the word, it's extremely unknown and alien. Danny agrees to meet with a Jamaican drug lord guy. When he meets Big Willie for answers, King Willie tells him, yeah, this thing's a demon. Your goose is cooked. You'll not catch him until it's too late, until he's right upon you.
Information. About the one that's doing all the killing,
Oh my god. What in the hell? Whoa. Ew. No. No. No!
You see, it's always the same. There's no stopping what can't be stopped.
Okay, I don't know if that guy is Caribbean or not, but he clearly didn't grow up speaking the language, or he somehow forgot. God, it makes my spine tingle. How freaking bad it is. Ironically, after Harrigan leaves, this guy himself is killed by the Predator, and this little motion here of the Predator walking through the water is actually pretty cool. This guy's ready to fight, but the Predator's like, what are you doing, bro? Why does the Predator even bother with these people? I guess he sees them in a place of power, and he thinks they're super powerful, so they'd make a good match or something. You know, in their culture, aren't they supposed to choose like the most badass things for initiation to defeat? But it's clear that some of these guys are just bad to each other, but not bad enough for it to be a challenge to a Yaoja. You know what I'm saying? And then why does it look like the Silver Surfer? Why is it posing like the Silver Surfer right there?
Okay, that's too much.
The Predator makes another human head his trophy.
This is Tony Pope.
I mean, goddamn. This guy would make millions in a Colgate commercial. At the gravesite, when Michael Harrigan goes to visit Danny's grave, a kid runs into the Predator and can see the shimmer in the air. And the Predator, after seeing his gun is not a threat, decides not to kill him. The kid offers him some candy, because of course you do. You don't see a monster or a ghost-like thing and not be nice to it. Very smart. Poor Harrigan is going through it. And then he realizes the Predator is playing with him when he walks past a tree and sees Danny's necklace hanging from it. This segment right here had me cracking up because of how dramatic it was. I feel like I was watching a Bollywood movie. Oh god, I can't. Anyway, Harrigan's team, Jerry Lambert and Cantrell, the girl officer, agree to meet Harrigan after Jerry tells him that, hey, that slaughterhouse where I saw him disappeared, I think I know around the area where Keyes and his men might be hiding, or at least where this killer is hiding. After they get into a fight with some thugs who are trying to mess around with some innocent people after finding out they're armed, then finding out everyone is armed, I know that this is fake, because I doubted the cities of Los Angeles people are walking around with not only firearms, but the exact same models, and everyone has a revolver. Everyone has a weapon. Would they though in Los Angeles? It doesn't matter because the Predator jumps through the train. There's chaos and a gnarly fight. And because several of the people are armed, they get shafted. I have a feeling they wrote in that unrealistic plot just so the Predator could kill unsuspecting people that were technically innocent. Jerry tells Cantrell to save the other passengers. Unfortunately, he stayed behind and ended up dying. When Cantrell goes to check on him, she's grabbed by the Predator. Now she's armed and he ordinarily would kill her, but discovers that she's actually carrying a baby inside of her. So he lets her go. Harrigan is distraught. He goes back down the train track to try and find his friend Jerry. And at the last moment, he finds the Predator ripping his skull and spinal cord out of his body. This part was really sad, and you could hear it in Harrigan's voice. That part was so freaking sad. It sounded so legitimate. Like, he knew Danny longer than he knew Jerry, but they had grown close. And Jerry was a good cop and a good person. And it must have felt very powerless for Harrigan to not be able to not only save his best friend Danny, but also to save the person he called a kid. Of course, Harrigan follows him, punches out old teeth here, and I don't blame him because the guy is so excited about there being blood and guts while Harrigan just lost his friend. And honestly, this later half of the movie, or the last 15% of the movie, is what I really like. I think the earlier portion of the movie honestly kind of sucked for me. As Harrigan chases the Predator across town, he is intercepted by Keyes and his people, and he sees them dressing up in thermal suits. Keyes is like, well, the cat's out of the bag, and he tells him that this alien is responsible for taking out some teams in Central America earlier, the events of the first movie. He tells him we've been tracking him. He's an alien from outer space. They hook up cameras and go in. Harrigan watches the whole whole thing in their little base. It works, and for a while, they are basically invisible to the Predator. The Predator knows there are people in there with him, and he's wondering why he can't see them. So he switches into different view modes. Really, bro? You have the technology to travel light years to Earth, but you can't get a non-grainy image? Anyway, this is bad because the Predator can now see their lights, and he's like, oh, well, looky here, you smart little things. Looks like it's time to do a little bit of shopping. Harrigan wants to save the men. He's like, no, we gotta get them out of there. I'm gonna go and help them. Little too late as the Predator tears through all of them. Setting off the sprinklers, the Predator's invisibility cloak does no longer work. At the last minute, Keyes is saved after Harrigan causes an explosion and tells the Predator come and get him. The Predator really has a run for his money. Good thing that old Harrigan had some armor here, or he would have been dead. Him facing off against the Predator was honestly so freaking amazing. When you see him cornered right here, you didn't even know he had a gun on him, and then he just blasts the monster in his crotch and in his chest. Nickelodeon slime falls out, and the sprinklers go off. He thinks the Predator is dead, but he ignores the oldest rule in every horror movie book.
You are one ugly mother.
It's the animatronic eyes, though. You know, there's something to be said for CGI and how far we've come. Because, like, looking back at this, you can tell how fake it looks. But yeah, don't go close to things, even if you think they're dead, especially if they're aliens, for crying out loud, because you don't know if they have the ability to regenerate. You ever heard of Dead Man's Hold? Sometimes things have a little bit of life in them, and you being extra close and them lashing out is the worst thing you could do. I think it's also a rule in thumb for deer as well, or almost any animal or large game that you bring down to eat. I've seen hunting videos of people making a kill, and the thing is still alive, even though they shot it in the head or the heart, and it gives one last kick. If you're standing in the wrong spot, that's your skull through your head. I mean, your brain through your skull. Also, that little scene there was a cute little callback to the first movie. The Predator throws him away and smashes his shotgun, making them even somewhat. Or maybe not. Just when we think Harrigan's goose is cooked and the Predator's about to kill him, Keyes jumps in the way and says he's gonna save his ass and that he should get out of here. This is a monumental moment for Keyes as he tries to freeze the creature, and it doesn't work. Unfortunately, the Predator has high tech that cuts through everything, including Keyes. Can somebody please tell me what those ice cream things are? Every time I see them, they're ice cream. They look like ice cream to me on top of an ice cream cone. And are they ventilation shafts or something? Like, why do they look like ice cream? Ever since I was really little, I would see them, and I'm like, what the hell are those things? Especially on really old buildings. And I'm thinking they're for ventilation, but they look so weird. Or do they bring air in? I don't know. It's so bothersome. Anyway, Harrigan bravely tackles the Predator, and while he's hanging on the ledge, his butt is clenching. The stupid Predator's like, shit happens, you know. Also, Harrigan calls him a pussy face. Real talk though, why does his mouth look like one? Like, I don't remember it looking like that in the first movie. That's fucking gross, bro. That's so freaking nasty. It's so, I want to punch him so badly because he has a snatch in the middle of his mouth. I don't like that. I don't know why it's so anger-inducing. I don't know if that was even part of the original design. Please set it on fire.
Calm down.
Before he could self-destruct, which, you know, I don't know, people say that the reason the Predator does this is so that people don't get his tech. However, he shoots his tech and leaves it all over the place. Yeah, little inconsistent there. Harrigan takes his little disky thing that he left and slices the Predator's arm off. I wouldn't say that Harrigan has a fear of heights. They try to play it up in the movie, but I think anybody in this situation would act the same way, and he's very brave. The Predator uses pieces of drywall in his medical concoction to cauterize his arm. Harrigan chases him through the apartment, and after going down the elevator shaft in a hole inside the ground, he finds himself in the Predator ship. This part was pretty cool because as Harrigan is walking up to the trophy wall, we see a dinosaur skull, some human skulls with the spinal columns, and the xenomorph skull. Would you look at that? I don't know what was going on at the time of this movie's release, but I think I heard that people were already talking about a crossover between these two worlds, or maybe there's a graphic novel of it or something. I'm not really sure, but it's pretty cool, and I think this is maybe the first time on screen, I could be wrong, that they showcase the xenomorph in the Predator's world. Poor Harrigan is caught by one of the Predator nets that usually cuts right through people's skin and constricts, but he has that little disc that he stole from the Ouija. And while he fights the Predator, he's on his knees, bested. But before the Predator can kill him, Harrigan uses the Predator's own weapon to split his guts out. Oh yeah, baby, that's how we roll.
Yeah, baby!
It is confirmed that the creature is actually dead. Unfortunately for Harrigan, he sees a whole host of his family members show up, and there are way too many of them to fight. For real though, what is going on with the green screen? But as is with the honorary system of them, they don't kill him, even though he invites them to. Instead, they pick up their fallen comrade and start to leave. The last one, the eldest one, looking, I'm just guessing he's the oldest because he has gray tendrils, gives Harrigan a gun. I am so glad that Harrigan was smart enough not to try and fire at these guys. This gun is by Raphael Adolini from 1715. I have no idea who that is. But being as this is, I'm sure, a very rare make, as it's very ancient, it probably costs a lot of money. Maybe enough that Harrigan can retire. The ship starts to take off. Were the Predators not going to make sure that he was out of their ship first? What if he couldn't find his way out? What if they gave him the gun and they blasted him to smithereens anyway? Jesus Christ, it's like, here you go. You won fair and square. You get a gift. Now we're gonna fry you with our thrusters. Poor Harrigan. Key's team, the guys who were responsible for covering up and investigating the aliens, were like, what happened in there? But Harrigan's like, I don't have to answer you. He makes sure gets out of there before the cops come. And they leave him there or just pretend that, hey guys, we found him. He's safe. And the rest of Harrigan's cop buddies come and yeah, that's it. That's the end of the movie.
What a shit show.
This movie was interesting. Like I said, the first portion of it wasn't really my cup of tea. It could have been a product of the year it came out, I guess. But this movie felt like it's from the 1970s to the 1980s, and it's from the 1990s, like the late 1990s, so I was a little bit shocked that it felt like it had lower production than the first movie, but that's a normal thing apparently with sequels. However, near the back end, Danny Glover actually pulled this movie. He was carrying it on his back. All the other cheesy actors just made it freaking weird. Danny Glover and his best friend Danny in the movie made it feel as though it was actually serious. I feel like some of the actors just did not mesh well with each other. On one hand, you have these cheesy, outlandish, cheesy, I keep saying cheesy, but I can't stress enough how cheesy they are characters. And then you have a great actor like Danny Glover and his friend in the movie, I don't know his actual name, but they actually are taking what's happening seriously. Even the girl cop here, and Jerry, even though Jerry cracked jokes, it felt as though he actually believed what was happening. Meanwhile, the others are just putting on their twirly mustache villain character in the worst way possible. So it felt like there was these serious characters, and then these theatrical characters, and you were watching a movie with a cartoon like Who Framed Roger Rabbit or something. It just wasn't a great fit. So maybe that's why the back end of the movie with just Danny Glover facing off against the Predator felt better to me. Honestly, because of the acting disparity, it felt like two different movies, or two different takes of movies. One that was supposed to be silly and not taken seriously at all and would have bombed, and one that is a serious thriller, sci-fi, horror, whatever you want to call it. All in all, if I were to choose out of Predator 1 and Predator 2, which one was the better movie? I would say I would like the feel of Predator 1 better. Also because it's more alien, you know, you're in a remote jungle. Here you're in Los Angeles and it just feels like, ooh, it's the city. It's giving me Super Mario Brothers the movie vibes, you know, the one that everyone hates. I think it had its charm, but if I had to choose to watch this movie again, I would not. I definitely would freaking not. I would watch the first one again, I would not watch the second one again. There are times when I just felt like, ugh. If Danny Glover had not been in this movie, I would have been like, nah. And even still, might be just from my time that I'm looking at this through this lens, but the acting in these thriller action movies, I feel were so much worse than in the horror movies. At least those from the same time. That's just my opinion. Not trying to step on anyone's toes who loved the movie. I think the last half of it was good. The movie as a whole was okay, but not really great or anything. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.